We're in the motherfucking playoffs.
It's good.
That was good? All right. Welcome to the Rider Outsiders, and we're going to talk some pre-playoff action. Today we have Dylan Robson and Bryce the Genius Wiles in studio. Gentlemen.
We're doing good. I was surprised to hear my phone ring in the middle of the week. What's going on? Rider Outsiders, middle of the week.
Special show. We got to get ready for these playoffs, and for the first time we're going to drop an episode before the game, which means we got a lot of speculation to do, and there's actually tons of news to get to. So let's start off with the Saskatchewan Roughrider signed Drew Tate, an insurance policy going into the playoffs. Claros, is he going to play? Dylan?
Well, it's actually being reported by the CFL that if Zach runs into some complications, Zach Collaros, Drew Tate is listed as the number 3 quarterback behind Bridge and or David Watford. So Tate is preparing like he'll play. So if he's called upon, I guess he's going to be ready.
Bryce, what does this mean for Chris Jones's confidence in Watford and Bridge?
Well, I think we've all just seen it all season, not just our confidence in these backup quarterbacks, but their confidence in themselves. Brandon Bridge, you've seen his confidence been shaken this season where he was trigger happy, Dylan was saying. And then the last time we saw him in, where he had to came in for Zach Collaros, he just was not pulling the trigger. He was kind of second-guessing himself and just kind of resorting to the scramble. So I think that this is a move that the Riders are trying to make because they are serious about winning the Grey Cup this year.
And I want to add one more thing on that because I also read that Mike Abu-Meshrik, who used to play with Drew Tate back when they played, Mike Abu-Meshrik was reporting that Drew Tate will be brought in for short yardage situations. Now, I don't know if that's his opinion or if that's what he's hearing from Roughrider staff, but that Marshall, being his position, being the playoffs, they don't necessarily want to be using him for those short yardage situations in the playoff situation, and they're not necessarily happy with the results that Bridge and Watford brought on the short yardage situation, so that we might be seeing Tate on 3rd and 1, 3rd and goal situations.
That's so interesting, but Marshall's so good at it, but I can see if you just wanted to make sure he's healthy to play corner, because he's a great corner. Next, dear Mr. Randy Ambrosi, you fine me the maximum amount for leading with my shoulder. That's cool. Next time I'm just going to lead with my head since y'all fine me the max anyway. Hashtag, it is what it is. Have a great day. That was Mr. Odell Willis about the hit on Collaros that knocked him out of the game, the last regular season game for the Riders, and he's still unclear if Collaros will play. Dylan, what do you think about that tweet?
I think that's the dirtiest tweet that I've ever read. And since it's a tweet that happened in the past, I'm going to call it a twat. That's how dirty it is. Now, listen to me, Odell Willis. As far as I'm concerned, that tweet is admitting intent to injure another player. That tweet is dirty enough to get suspended for. I understand Odell Willis apologized for that tweet, deleted that tweet. But as far as I'm concerned, that's not enough. Odell Willis, you want to fight? Bring the fight, Odell. We got an entire nation of Rider fans ready to stand up. I mean, you better hope you don't make it to the Grey Cup because we're coming for you. Whoa.
Bryce, should Odell get fined more for that tweet?
Well, he technically can't get fined more because he did get fined the maximum. You never want to see another player go out and actually advocate for leading with his helmet, especially against quarterbacks looking to injure him. But to be devil's advocate, they did fine him the maximum, so I guess they can't really fine him anymore. It's almost like double jeopardy, right?
They could fine him for the tweet. The tweet has nothing to do with the hit. This is sort of putting the commissioner in a bad light.
Can you fine a football player for tweeting? Maybe.
Probably. It's a good question.
You probably could.
It's not. You're not fining him for the tweet. You're fining him for publicly threatening every other player that he's going to be playing against. That's what he's doing. It's not a tweet. It's a threat saying he is going to be injuring players. The NFL suspended the coach of the New Orleans Saints for an entire season because of intents to injure players. This is the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
All right, we're going to keep moving. Dylan, you just got back from the field. Interview with Coach Chris Jones. Where are we going to go with this tape?
That's right. Well, I jumped in on the scrum that Jones did after practice. And you know what? I think the first thing, a lot of people are asking questions about the weather. Let's just play a quick clip on what Jones had to say about the weather for Sunday's game.
Our guys, I told them this morning, I'm about tired of hearing about the damn weather. You know, I mean, we're playing the game. I mean, it doesn't matter where we play them. I mean, the game's happening. And we really don't care if it's played here or played somewhere where it's 100 degrees. Don't matter.
As you can hear there, Chris Jones obviously not too concerned about the cold. Now, I want to make a point here. As we're waiting for practice to end, a lot of players started walking in through the tunnel because we're waiting inside for the players to finish practice. There was a lot of comments being made about the weather, but the comments from the players were all positive. They were things like, not cold enough for me. And the guy go running by. Another guy comes running by, says, I wish it was like that all year long. Then Willie Jefferson comes by, and he starts jumping up and down. He's excited. He's like, I love this cold weather. So these guys are not concerned with the cold weather. I know it's something we talked about in the past about the cold weather team. But Chris Jones obviously said something to those guys because, as you can see, he kind of said, I've had enough hearing about the weather. So that's good.
Now, the good news, right? So right now it looks like, minus 15 or so in Regina. Come Sunday during game time, looking at minus 9. So a little bit better than what we're seeing right now. Now, we also have a clip about JWL. He's one of the Riders All-Stars this year.
That's right. Jordan Williams Lambert. We talked about him. We tried to get a nickname. Didn't like Billy Bird. Ended up with JWL. Threw around Air Jordan for a while. But Chris Jones was asked, when you brought this rookie in at the beginning of training camp, did you expect him to be the leading receiver on your team? So here's what Jones had to say about that.
Well, he's pretty a player, I mean, he's one of the leading receivers there at his school there at Miami of Ohio. And, he's a leading receiver there for a reason, because he caught the football. And so we brought him in because we thought he was a good player. And, we released a very good player in order to play.
And JWL isn't the only all-star for the Riders this year. Brendan Labatt, Ed Gainey, kicker Brett Lauher. Wait, did I say it wrong? Lowther?
Oh, you did.
Damn.
Yeah.
Double
There's
damn.
a T in there.
Okay.
Lauher.
Brett Lowther.
Lowther.
Yep, I got it. Brett Lowther and Willie Jefferson, Charleston Hughes. Did I miss anyone else? Did I say Brendan Labatt already?
No, you didn't.
No.
Brendan Labatt, JWL, Willie Jefferson, Charleston Hughes, Brett Lowther, and Ed Gainey. Any surprises there? Any misses you guys think?
Bryce, what do you think? You're the genius.
Oh, well, I think they got it pretty much bang on. Who did they miss out? Well, they definitely didn't miss any Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who the Saskatchewan Roughriders got to play in the playoffs. They have, 7 All-Stars?
Andrew Harris, Darwin Adams.
5 on the offense.
Suk Chung? I'm probably butchering that.
The Winnipeg's offensive All-Stars versus the Riders' defensive All-Stars. And we got Brett Lowther, the kicker, the all-star kicker for the CFL. And you know what? The other guy who I was looking over way in the East, Lewis Ward, up there in the kickers. We've been talking about those 2 kickers all season.
Yep.
That's what happens when you get the genius on the podcast. He can predict which kickers are going to be in the all-star picks at the end of the season.
Dylan, what's your take on these all-stars?
I think it's amazing that Bryce just took credit for Lowther's success. That's amazing. No, I'm kidding. But the All-Stars, you know what? It's funny because the Rough Riders, when it comes to the final All-Stars, like the league All-Stars, I think the Riders are being shortchanged, and I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think the Riders aren't necessarily a team built on all-stars, but we're an all-star team, if you know what I'm saying. We're second place in the West. We almost finished first place. And I shouldn't say in the West. I should say in the league.
Yeah, second best record in the league, yeah.
But statistically, we're not putting up those fiery numbers unless you're looking at defense. Now, I said a couple weeks ago, Willie Jefferson is the clearly outstanding player on our defense team. Looks like they agreed there, so that's right along what I was saying. Also want to point out, at the very beginning, first interview we had with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I was asked, who do you want to interview? And I said, I want to interview that young kicker we got. I want to interview Brett Lowther. So that was the first Rough Rider interview we did on this podcast. And so if Bryce can take credit for something, I'm taking credit for that too.
Now, I would mention that Samuel Guavin, not an all-star. Derek Moncrief, not an all-star. And those are two big pieces to our defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame Moncrief's injury for that.
Yeah, good point. Now, so these were the all-star selections, but there were also a players poll, and that had limited results for the Riders showing up as the toughest player and that type of stuff. Dylan, you took a close look at this. What do you think about the Riders not really showing up on the players poll?
Yeah, so basically a quick rundown here. 210 players from across the league a couple of weeks ago participated in the 8th annual players poll, where they vote on hardest hitter, fastest player, toughest, who has the best hands, best trash talker, hardest to take down, biggest threat to score. So let's just look at that. Hardest hitter, we have Adam Bighill. That's who the players voted. You know what? I'm not going to disagree with that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that the Riders had one there. Fastest player, they have Brandon Banks. Now that might be a result of Brandon Banks' reputation. Yeah. I don't know. I really think that Swerve, what's his name? Kyran Moore,
yeah.
Moore didn't even make the top 3 in that category. He's not even on the list as far as what the players across the league.
Yeah,
exactly. Toughest player. Who do you guys think was the CFL voted? The players voted toughest player.
Brendan Labatt.
You'd think that because of from what I hear, Labatt is not only one of the strongest players on the team.
Yeah,
he's constantly injured and just keeps playing injured.
Yeah, everyone talks so highly of him, and during a lot of our interviews, people would mention him when we'd talk about toughest player and that type of stuff. Not on the list, hey?
Not on the list at all. CFL players have named Mike Riley the toughest, and then Travis Lulay behind him. I don't know about that. Lulay's probably a tough guy, but I'm thinking
he bounced back.
He bounced back from a nasty injury.
Best hands, best receiver, basically. No Rough Riders on the list.
Naaman Roosevelt.
To bring down.
No?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Hardest player to bring down, or hardest guy to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Riders again not on this list at all.
Who won that one?
I'm going to say Tyrell Sutton for the BC Lions, running back.
I thought maybe Andrew Harris or something.
Yeah, Andrew Harris is number 2 on that one. Biggest trash talker. I mean,
Purify.
Could have been.
Yep.
Could have been. Not on the list though. So Rough Riders not on the trash talker list. I think it's okay to not be included on this one. Although, I will say, Deron Carter did make the cut as an Argonaut, but most of his time was spent with us while he was talking the most trash, I think.
So he was talking trash here and just playing trash over there. Hooah! Hooah!
Got him.
Huh?
Got him.
Oh, okay.
Ouch. Oh, it stings, doesn't it, Deron?
Hadouken! I don't know. Okay.
Most
underrated player. We have, I think, our whole team. That's what I'm saying.
Well, JWL is underrated for sure. That dude can play. He's a rookie. So who's underrated officially on the player poll?
Luke Tasker of the Hamilton Tiger Cats voted as the most underrated player in the CFL. Yeah. So after Luke Tasker, we have Jeremiah Mazzoli rated as the second most underrated player in the CFL. But I mean, guys, Mazzoli, he's not underrated at all. He's one of the most talked about players in the CFL.
Well, is it maybe they're right though, because a lot of people were skeptical about him. Is that the same thing as being underrated? Is this guy really prime time? Is he really prime time? And then he won a bunch of games.
Yeah, so let's say next year he can't even be in this category.
No.
I would say that.
No.
Another player poll we don't want to be part of, the nastiest player in the league according to CFL players.
Ooh, now I'm listening.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm into this one.
Ottawa Redblacks, Kyrie's Hebert.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, that's the guy that keeps getting suspended and whatnot, right? With the high hits and crap.
Mm-hmm.
This is dirtiest player?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Winnipeg Blue Bomber, Suk Chung. You tried to mention his name earlier. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right either.
2018 CFL All-Star. Also dirty
there
player.
You go.
Okay. Also dirtiest player. Hey.
And then Jamal Westerman. Now, didn't Westerman take a couple shots at JWL the last time we played, or am I wrong?
I'll back you up. But I don't remember.
Nice. Anyways, I want to point something out. We've gone through a huge list here. Yeah. No Roughriders are on this list. None. And it's not all nasty players. So now, finally, as biggest threat to score from anywhere, we didn't quite make it to the top of that. We have Brandon Banks, once again, voted by the players. And then Chris Rainey, number 2 on the list there for most biggest threat to score from anywhere. And then finally, last question, third place, Roughriders finally make an appearance. Marcus Thigpen, biggest threat to score from anywhere. So anyways, I just wanted to get that off my chest. We are an underrated team. We are underdogs going into these playoffs. The pundits don't take the Riders seriously. The players don't take the Riders seriously. We're coming in as underdogs, despite the fact that we got a home playoff game. So as far as I'm concerned, we got them right where we want them.
All right. I like it. All right. Before we go away from the Chris Jones interview, there's one other clip talking about a potential score.
That's right at the scrum there. Local sports reporter, Mitchell Blair, a.k.a. Scruffy himself. He mentioned about the 2 defenses being extremely strong. And at the same time, he sort of alluded to struggling offenses between the Bombers and the Riders. So let's just play that exchange, starting with the Mitchell Blair comment/question, and hear Jones's response.
Chris, do you expect this to be a game where maybe the winning team gets 21 or less points? I just can't see with these 2 defenses this being a shootout. So is it one of those situations where whenever you have an opportunity, you have to cash in?
Well, I mean, just sure as you say that, it'll end up 49-48. I mean, that's always the way it seems like it happens. I mean, this is a CFL. There's a lot of ways to score points. They're a very good offense. Certainly we have to know where all their receivers are, and they do a really good job. Lapo does a good job of using the width of the field to his advantage and to their offense's advantage. I think that special teams wise, they're very very solid, and then certainly like you mentioned, the defense, they can score points on defense too. So it's going to be a great game, and it comes down to who can execute.
So there you have it. Now, probably not going to be a shootout, right? But
well, you never know. But I got a comment. Mitchell Blair. Respect for Mitchell Blair. He's out in the sports cage a lot. But this guy, is it just me, or does he always sort of ask a question and answer it before giving it up to the player? Or just says a statement and then moves the microphone over to the player to confirm the statement? It's not really questions?
Some broadcast journalists like to analyze it, set it up the way they see it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I'm going to say it's not really a question. Bryce, what do you think about that? When journalists just sort of throw a comment out there?
I think it's a pretty good tactic for interviewing to get someone to kind of echo what they're saying or confirm it, or they can always disagree with the statement too. So rather than kind of asking someone a question and putting them on the spot, you can kind of just lead them where it's kind of easier, so you don't get the old gong show that we always get on the RO podcast every once in a while when you get one of those brain blanks and you can't seem to put something together. So
maybe it is a tactic that's successful in sports reporting.
I'll add this because Coach Jones has a tendency to not answer the questions he doesn't want to answer. And I think Mitchell Blair knows maybe he's found a little bit of tactic that can get a little more out of Chris Jones when you ask those questions. So if you set him up, it's not something Jones can simply say yes, no, don't want to talk about. The sort of the detail or the analysis going into at least that scoring question. It brought a good answer away from Jones. You know what I'm saying?
I suppose so. But in some situations, the interviewee doesn't even have to say anything because there wasn't a question. They could just say, oh, what is your question? But I digress. Let's move on. So, you guys want to talk about the playoffs now? Or do we want to get into our Jorgen Hus interview?
Jorgen Hus.
Want to go to Hus? Or do we want to just jump into the playoffs and break that down on what we need to do to win?
I think it's the Genius's call.
Genius, where are we going? Interview or playoff talk?
Oh, well, let's go right to the interview.
Here we go. Jorgen Hus with Dylan Robson.
Well, yeah, Jorgen Hus, he's the long snapper. And, we've interviewed Lowther, we've interviewed Bartel. Now, those guys, that's essentially the triple threat of our special teams game here when it comes to kicking those field goals. So this is not just the long snapper, some insignificant position. This is one of the major reasons we found success this year.
So here I'm Dylan Robson after the Rough Riders practice in the tunnel of Mosaic Stadium right beside the Riders locker room. We got number 46 long snapper Jorgen Hus. It's Hus, right?
Hus, yeah, you got it.
Okay. So you were drafted by the Eskimos in 2013. You spent some time with a few NFL teams, and then you signed with the Riders in May 2015. So you're from Saskatoon. Was playing with the Rough Riders something you dreamt about as a kid?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always been a dream to play here. And, when I just got into football and when I knew I wanted to play professionally, I knew I always wanted to be a Rough Rider. So when I came back to the CFL, it was, no doubt that I wanted to be here.
Cool. So I mentioned the NFL. So you spent some time with, I think it's right, St. Louis Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, Kansas City Chiefs. Can you share some insights of some things you might have learned while you were down south?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Just, what it takes to be a pro. It was quite a jump coming from, at that time, CIS football to the NFL. So, I really enjoyed it, learned a lot. And, a lot of the protection schemes that we do on our punt team here are identical. Coach Dickinson spent some time in the NFL and actually worked closely with a special team coach I was with down in St. Louis. So a lot of the terminology is the same, same scheme, all the same protection rules. So it was very easy to come here and fit right in. So that helped out a lot.
So let's focus on the field goal kicks. The Rough Riders have been nailing field goal kicks, all year long. Looks really good. And I was watching one of the 56-yarders that you guys hit this year, and from the moment you snap the ball, there's about 1 full second until Lowther makes contact with that football, and so the ball touches 3 players in 1 second. Can you tell us what goes into making that look so easy?
Well, you know what? Brett spoils us. Him and Bartel both make my job really, really easy. They never ever complain, even if I'm off a little bit. But like you said, it happens in a second or just a little over. It just happens so fast. He's been money all year, and it's his time, and he's been waiting a long time for this, and it's real exciting to be a part of it.
And so, I talked with Bartel earlier in the season. He said that you're likely the most accurate long snapper in the league. So he's taking your punt snaps as well as your field goal snaps. So what's it like working with Josh Bartel?
Oh, it's too easy. Like he never complains. Like I was just mentioning, if it's a little high or a little low, he doesn't know any better. He doesn't complain at all. I think a lot of that comes from him playing Aussie rules back home. They just catch the ball wherever and kick it. So it makes my job a lot easier, and there's no stress at all. So I love working with him. It's been great.
And so there's another part of the snap that I think isn't entirely understood. And so I heard this term sort of looking online, the perfect lace. What does that mean when it comes to a snap for you?
Yeah, so what perfect laces all means is when we're on field goal and we're going to kick a field goal, when Bartel catches the ball, you want the laces to be facing out so that when he puts it on the tee, he doesn't have to turn it at all or spin it. it just makes it a lot easier. And if the laces are facing straight backwards, sometimes the kicker can kick it and it can deflect the ball and it can go, who knows, right? So you want to have the laces out, and it just makes the holder's job easier, and the kicker has nothing else to worry about. He can just focus on his kick. So, we all kind of just try and play our part. And, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm off a little bit, but Bartel's the best holder in the league, and he makes my job easy, and ultimately makes Brett's job easier too.
So do you put like a half spiral on that, because you want
it spins about 2 or 3 times. It just comes down to thousands of reps and just kind of knowing exactly how much spin to put on it, and then when he catches it, the laces are out already.
Yeah, and I think anyone who's seen Ace Ventura is familiar with the significance of laces out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be surprised how many times Ace Ventura came up in our podcast this year. So another thing Josh Bartel said was that about he thinks you might even lead the long snappers in the league when it comes to tackles. So I've watched you aggressive after the snap. So what is that like? You snap the ball. What's it like from the line of scrimmage running to the returner? It seems like an often overlooked but aggressive part of the game.
Yeah, it's always been a part where, it's not really expected of the snapper to run down there and make tackles, but I try and bring that to the table. I've done that my whole life, and I think that's what's gotten me always to the next step and the next level, is just the ability to run down and make tackles. So I've never wanted to become complacent and not want it to be down there. So, I trained just as hard as I did, playing linebacker if I were to, be playing a defensive position. I always something I always want to have part of my game. The speed and running downfield and helping out the cover unit. And we've been pretty good on our punt team. We've had a few host against us, but other than that, we've been nails. And it's a fun group to work with. And Dickie does a good job of coaching us. But it's just something that I've always tried to do, and I always want it to be a part of my game.
And so if you could play another position, what position would you play? You mentioned linebacker, so you got...
Yeah, I'd probably be linebacker. I think safety would be kind of fun too. Yeah. One of the two. Yeah.
And so what's been your favorite memory or most memorable moment as a Rough Rider?
Oh, man. We had one a few years ago against Ottawa at home. We kicked the 53-yarder. It was either end of the game or overtime to win it. That was a huge moment. That was at the old stadium. Where I think we're going to have a lot more towards the end of the season. As the year ends, we're going to have a lot of those moments. But that'd probably be my favorite moment, as a long snapper. We've had lots of really good team wins that have, that I'm going to remember forever. But, as far as just being a snapper and being out there for that moment, and the whole operation was just perfect. And Tyler hit a great kick, and that was good. And then just a few weeks ago, we had a good operation to kind of seal the game in Calgary. And, the punt team was out there, and it was a pressure cooker moment, and they brought the house against us. And, when it really mattered the most, our team answered. And, it doesn't look like much to the average fan, but, teams are pretty good at scheming up blocks and stuff like that. So, it was a proud moment for us to get the ball away and let our defense do their thing.
Yeah, the punt coverage has definitely been really tight the last 2 games that I've noticed for sure. What about who's the toughest guy you've had to face in the CFL?
Oh, man. The strongest would be that Armando Sewell in Edmonton. He's a load. When they leave their defense out there, he gets a hold of you. You're not going too far.
Yeah. He's a beast. We've seen that. Yeah. Now, since the beginning of the season, the first interview we did in week 1 was with Brett Lowther. And since the beginning of the seasons, I've been sort of occasionally in the podcast bringing up this video I saw of you somewhere up in the area of the stands there, doing a long snap all the way past the seats, all the way onto the field, onto like this 3x3 foot platform or something like that. So how did that come about? Whose idea was this, and what's the story behind that?
That was actually a SaskTel gig that we were doing. So we were out there just filming some commercial for them with their cell phones and whatnot, and they were all flip phones, old used ones that they were recycled. And we're just trying to do some trick shots. And so we just launched one up off the upper deck, and surprisingly it hit. I think that was the first one too. And it was a fun day. We were just out there breaking phones and having fun.
So I asked Brett Lowther about it. He said he wasn't there, but he said you called him the first chance you got to let him know.
Yeah, that's what he says. I didn't call him. We all lived together, so I walked home and he asked about it, and I told him. I know he was just trying to be a smart ass.
So I also asked Josh Bartel about it. he said he also wasn't there. He goes, he doesn't know if anybody was there, and that he questions the video's validity. So.
Yeah, no, we always try and throw each other under the bus whenever we get the chance, so that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Awesome. So you guys have Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming to town this Sunday night. It's first time Bombers have been here in the playoffs since 1975. For fans, it's a big game. For the Riders, obviously, it's a big game. But how do you guys remain calm? What do you focus on when it's playoff time?
Well, I think, we just listen to Coach. I mean, he's been leading us all year and getting us right. And, I think we just focus in on what we're doing and, not listen to anything else, not worry about the weather, not worry about what they're doing or saying. It's all about what we do. And if we are well prepared, then we know the physical part's going to take care of itself and we'll be just fine. So, it is exciting. It's, who else would you rather play but Winnipeg at home, So, and I got a lot of friends on that team, but it's going to be a fun game for sure.
So we're inside. Normally we do the interviews outside. The weather's turned the last little while. I've heard some players walk by here. They're talking about how they seem to be enjoying the cold. They say it's not cold enough for them. They wish it could be like this all year. So I'm getting a sense that the Roughriders aren't too worried about the weather.
No, we're definitely not worried about it. That's not everything we need to even talk about. It's I'm from here. It's nothing new to me. I sensed a bit of excitement out there from everybody, feeling a little bit of brisk, and it's guys are just making snow angels in the snow, and we're having fun. We're enjoying it. It's football. It's playoffs. It's go time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks so much for the interview.
Cool. You bet. Anytime, man.
Big thanks to Jorgen Hus for that interview, for the insight, and for the outlook. He really does have a positive outlook. When you grow up in Saskatoon, watch the Riders play as a kid, and then you're playing for the Riders as an adult, you can't help but notice that those guys that live that life seem to have a really good outlook and a positive attitude when it comes to football, for sure.
We're going to move on now to playoff talk. Riders are hosting the Bombers on Sunday. And not to start off on a downer here, but the last time this team met, it was a 31-0 shellacking. How is this going to look different, or will it be the same? Bryce, what do you figure?
Well, you know what I think? I think we're in for a big surprise because nobody's really going to know who's going to be starting for the Riders here. Like, if Zach Collaros is in the game, and he shows up to the game, then it's going to be good. But if he's still not able to play, it's going to be a pretty tough game for the Riders at home with their backup quarterbacks in there against a strong Winnipeg offense where you got to put up points to beat them. And I know me and Dylan were talking about this earlier about how the Riders' defense has scored 15 of the 40 total touchdowns for the team this year. So that if you do the quick number crunch, it's only 25 touchdowns this offense has scored, so they better show up to play if they want to beat Winnipeg in this playoff game.
I believe that's defense and special team touchdowns, right? Versus the offensive touchdowns?
Combined. Yeah, that's right. Combined defensive. Now, I don't see that as a negative by any means. With 15 touchdowns coming from defense and special teams, where we finished in the league, that kind of shows that this is really a team effort. Second place in the league and essentially tied for first, really. Let's be realistic here. Now, the Edmonton Eskimos, where did they finish? They're last in the West, not in the playoffs. Guess how many combined defensive and special teams touchdowns the Eskimos have?
3,
6,
5,
1.
Whoa.
Oh.
So, I mean, you can kind of see this year in the CFL, we've seen some big returns, some big plays. I think that's what it comes down to. Some years, it's a gunslinger's league. Other years, it's a grind. And that's what we're witnessing right now.
Oh, the correlation. I like it.
If Zach doesn't play, there's no way the Riders pull off this win. And I think Bryce is right. If Zach doesn't show up, if he puts out another 40%, pass completion, we're not going to win this game either. He needs to be on the money.
Well, let me say this. We've got the Bombers right where we want them because
every time.
Well, they are playing in Regina. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not only that, we're a different team. Yeah. We're a different team than we were in the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl. Now, when we got shut out by them a few weeks ago, what could the Bombers possibly look at for game day footage? They're going to look at that game and be like, well, nothing happened there. No, nothing happened. There's nothing to look at there. That is the most useless game day footage you will ever see anywhere because the Riders essentially didn't show them anything, and we lost because of it. However, like I said, we're a different team. We have new players. We have new plays. We have rotated our receivers. Our guys are going to be fresh coming in this playoff, way fresher than a lot of the other guys.
Yeah, they had a week
on
off,
other teams. Yeah. I'm telling you, the Bombers, it's going to be like shock and awe. That's what it's going to be.
Now, I will give you this. So the Riders played Winnipeg.
Guys, whoa.
What? Something happened?
I think I just thought of the name for the Roughriders defense.
About time, yeah.
Shock and awe. Shock and awe. Boom.
Shock and awe.
Shock and awe. One word, shock and awe?
Yeah, that's good. It's better than gangrene or Saskatchewan.
All right. Shock and awe it is. We will run with that for the remainder of the season. And what I was just jumping to was the Riders played Winnipeg 3 times, I believe. Labor Day and the Banjo Bowl, the Riders won 31-23 and 32-27. So season series does go to the Riders. So it's good. It's good. I'm just looking up some of the stats from those games. And that's back when Zach really hadn't, the offense, I guess I shouldn't lay it all on Zach, but the offense wasn't doing a ton. The offense has shown much better in recent weeks than what they were doing back during the Labor Day.
I got some stats, some relevant Rough Rider Blue Bomber stats for you right now.
Okay.
Let me lay it out for you. George Reed rushed for 100. George Reed rushed for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. Ron Lancaster completed 20 of 27 passes for 338 yards and 4 touchdowns. Saskatchewan Roughriders sacked Ralph Dieter 6 times, with George Wells sacking him 5 of those 6 times. That was in 1975, the very last time the Winnipeg Blue Bombers came to Regina for a playoff game. That's the last time those two met in the playoffs in Regina. That's how big this game is.
That's a lot of passion. But yeah, that's a pretty good point. It's been a long time. Oh, it's almost been half a decade. Maybe not that long. But since the Winnipeg came to Saskatchewan, to Regina for a playoff game. But,
not half a decade. Would you say half a decade? You meant half a century? Is that what you meant? What did you say there, Bryce?
Half a century. Yeah. Half a decade would only be 5. That's barely any time at all.
Okay. Just checking if you're paying attention. That's all.
Good catch. That was a test. I was testing you.
Of course.
I was testing you to see.
Well, I'll test you, Bryce. Here we go. So we're all rooting for the Riders to win. So how's it going to come down? How's it going to work? Walk me through how the Riders win this game, Bryce.
Well, the Riders are going to win this game the way they've been winning their games all year long. It's going to be on some freak lucky touchdowns from the defense and the special teams. If they don't get 2 touchdowns from defense and special teams, they're probably not moving on to play Calgary. But if they get that fumble, that scoop and score, or maybe they jump that hitch route and they get that pick 6, or maybe even somebody runs a punt back for a touchdown, I'm sure the Riders are going to take this one for the W.
What do you think about that, Dylan?
Well, I think he makes a fair point. However, I would like to give a little more credit to the offense. I think Cameron Marshall, I think you talk about underrated players. That's one of them, one of our running backs there. And I'm not counting Zach Collaros out by any means. I think he is a fighter. I don't think Zach Collaros is worried about a little bit of concussion. I don't know if he has it. Zach says he's going to play. Jones says he's going to play. as far as I'm concerned, Zach's going to play, and he's going to play well. We got the receivers to do the job. They aren't going to be bringing, a preseason effort here. This is postseason playoffs. They're in it for the cup. I really feel like the offense is going to deliver more than some are giving credit for.
What do you guys think of the running back situation?
It's good. Cameron Marshall is the man. He's a stud. He just had to get healthy, I guess. He had an injury. I'm not sure if it was a knee that kept him out most of the season and unsigned for a good chunk of the season. But he's filling in well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's going to be I know you didn't want to talk about the weather, but it is going to be wintertime. So we're going to see more of the run game, and that's right into Winnipeg's wheelhouse.
That's true.
They have one of the best running backs in the league. So the offense, like the Saskatchewan defense, they're good against the run, but I mean they're better against the pass. Getting the sacks and the interceptions, but they're going to have to come and stop the run, I think.
That's a great point. Got to stop Harris, got to figure it out, and that offense needs to get some first downs to give our defense a rest, right? So that comes down to Cameron Marshall and Trey Mason to get some hard yards up the middle, get those first downs. Now, we're talking a lot about Zach Collaros. I'm not sure if we can jump to this right now, but this is a contract year for Zach. It's also a contract year for Trevor Harris, Mike Riley, and Bo Levi Mitchell, and Travis Lule. So tons of these sort of all-star type, big-name quarterbacks in the CFL could be making a move in the offseason. Do you think the team, the Riders, will go after Zach and try to re-sign him right after their playoff run?
That's a good question. A lot of free agent all-star QBs there. I think Zach, despite what I said, I think Zach does have a reputation of being a little bit of perhaps concussion prone. That might make teams a little hesitant in signing him. So I don't know. We might be safe to have first dibs on him, if you know what I'm saying.
Bryce, I heard a little bit of a rumor that Jones might be eyeing Mike Riley to come to Regina. What do you think about that?
Oh, wow. That would be an unstoppable force if we had someone like Mike Riley in Saskatchewan with the Saskatchewan defense the way it is and the young receiver core that Jones has put together. But yeah, you're saying every so often you see it in the CFL. This is what happens, and there's a big quarterback shuffle almost, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody just kind of swaps quarterbacks. It's like a big kind of like swingers party or something, right? And all of a sudden, this guy's now he was playing in Saskatchewan. Now he's over in Calgary, and everybody hates him and kind of stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and that brings me to my question for Dylan. Dylan, could you get behind a push to bring Bo Levi Mitchell, BM, to Saskatchewan?
Bringing the BM right to the Regina? I don't know. Obviously, Bo Levi Mitchell's a great player, but I said it before. He is built into that Calgary system. They've built a team around him. He's successful because of the Calgary system. You can bring Bo Levi Mitchell in, but you better be prepared to build an entire system around him if you want those Calgary-type results. As far as those free agents go, if we're excluding Zach Collaros from the list on who do I want to bring in, it's an argument between Mike Riley and Trevor Harris.
Nice. Yeah, I like both those guys. All right, with that, we're going to start to wrap this up quickly, and we'll end with a meh for this week. Bryce, what is your meh?
Well, I got a meh of the week for you. Everybody saw that awesome celebration by the Ottawa lineman, John Gott. He didn't score the touchdown, but after his team scored the touchdown, he runs into the crowd, grabs a beer. I think it was a Mill Street Organic, not maybe the most manliest of beers, but grabs that beer and he chugs it down right through his helmet and then crushes the beer can onto his helmet and then goes back and probably stunk like beer for the entire rest of the game. And we all thought, oh, he's going to get fined. That's the most expensive beer he's ever drank. No fine. The league did not fine him for that excessive celebration, which was fine. I thought it was kind of fun. But then I actually read into it, and it was a setup. It wasn't like he just ran into the stands and grabbed some stranger's beer and drank it. That beer was his girlfriend's beer.
Well, of course, you're not going to drink some stranger's beer.
No, well, yeah, that was the whole point. You're not going to, yeah. So she was like,
when you said a setup, I thought you were going to say that Ambrosi was in the background there.
No, she was just, she was like hanging out there with the full one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that takes a little bit of the spontaneity of it.
Sure.
Where I thought maybe he was just in the moment and decided to go grab somebody's beer and drink it.
You have a matter of seconds to accomplish this dance, but I hear you. So that's your meh.
That's my meh.
It was planned out. Do you think it was run by the league to make sure he didn't get fined? Because I thought he was going to get fined for sure. Drinking while playing? This seems to be a fine.
Yeah. I think that would be something that's illegal or maybe frowned upon, but apparently no fine. So I don't think it was planned out by the league, but from what I read, it was like his girlfriend was just sitting there with a full one for him, and then he ran up and did it. So it took the magic away from it.
I thought it was fair enough. Thank you, Dylan.
Now, Bryce, I've watched a Rider game or two with you. Headed to the LB to get a little pre-game drinks there, and I believe your beer of choice is Pabst Blue Ribbon, right? We're talking, right?
Yes.
Now, come on, man. You can't be dissing someone's beer choice when you're holding a 6-pack of Pabst. You know what I'm saying?
It's PBR. It's PBR. First place. That's why it has a blue ribbon on it.
Sam Adams, guys. That's the king of beer, Sam Adams.
Guys are insane.
So what's the beer then? What's the Rider beer? I don't even know anymore.
You do know what the Rider official
pill. You know
Thurs and snurs,
you used to
man.
wear pill hats out of the cardboard of the boxes, Bryce.
I do not recall what you...
I have the picture. All right. Moving on. Do I have a meh? No, I don't have a meh. It's the motherfucking playoffs, guys. And this is the end of the podcast today. Thanks for tuning in. We're on iTunes, on Google Play, on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Facebook. If you don't find us, it's your own fault. For the Rider Outsiders, don't forget Twitter. Don't forget Twitter. And what's the tweet in the past tense, Dylan?
I'm not going to go there. Come on, get out of here.
It's a twat. Okay. Have a good night.
Shock value. Yes. I love it.
And scene.